they're still working with a very sort of pared down squad.
Yeah, and they had to change a lot during that game to get the result out of it. Like by the end of it, you had Rashford playing through the top with Weghorst playing as a 10 behind him, like a Fellaini sort of role. But you took on Lisandro Martinez to help out with defending.
He did well when he came on.
I thought he's great. He's a really good player. And you see, I mean, I was saying that Harry Maguire was awful earlier, which sounds harsh, but genuinely, he kept giving the ball away almost every single time he had it. It was slow. He's like if you had like a foosball character that was animated in the night, like hit by lightning, came to life, that's what he was like. Slow to turn, very wooden. Just
Can you imagine being Harry Maguire at the moment of last year? Like, not in the sense of, I've had a bad game, but every touch, like, it's got to be very, very difficult for Harry Maguire. Like, every time he receives the ball, every time he's got a header to win or a tackle to make, for him not to think about the level of scrutiny that he's under.
For sure.
It's the game, no doubt.
Well, everyone's saying bad things about him. I mean, there's this idiot me talking about him as though he's not good at football. He's an international footballer, knows what he's doing. He was quite interesting in this post-match, because he said, like, he knows that there's 4 international defenders in the team, so 2 of them aren't going to get in the game. He's very level-headed about it, pointed out that he is the captain of the club. I just think this game has maybe showed that there's so many deficiencies to his game that it seems very much that I don't know how he'd be able to adapt to it, because the speed of both thought and actual literal speed are slow in those situations, which just doesn't suit what they're going to do. So I don't know what happens.
He looked very clumsy at times, didn't he? And very casual too. But I think the interesting thing for me about Harry Maguire is that he's traditionally played as a right-footed, left-sided centre-back. And there's been a lot of discussion about how when you play him on the right, and I think Erik ten Hag is going to be the sort of manager who is going to want to have a strong sided centre-back, so a right-footed centre-back on the right side and a left-footed centre-back on the left side. So he's been playing Maguire over on the right, but you can see from the way that he plays that he's just so much less comfortable.
He ends up on that left side often when it's like really busy, chaotic moments. I noticed that. Yeah.
And I think that's because of his body shape. When he's playing passes and when he's addressing the ball, for whatever reason, I mean, there's people talking about his biomechanics. I don't know anything about that, but for whatever reason, he fronts up far too straight on the right-hand side, which is fine when you're playing on the left because your passing angle is very different, whereas on the right, you obviously have a completely different set of passing angles. And we know that Harry Maguire is a really good progressive passer, but he just hasn't been able to do it on the right-hand side. So I do think that raises big questions about how Erik ten Hag is going to want to fit him on that team if he's not going to play him on the left-hand side. And I guess, you have a player like Lisandro Martinez, you're not going to force him out of the team anytime soon. But also, like, even yesterday when Martinez didn't start out, it was we had Maguire on the right-hand side rather than the left. So there's clearly something about Maguire that Erik ten Hag means that he doesn't want to play him on that left-hand side.
Do you think throughout most of his Man United career, he's been a little bit of a victim of not having that central passing option in midfield, like that deep one? Like if you put in, for instance, at any point in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, you put kind of someone like Marcelo Brozovic in there ahead of someone like Maguire, that's a kind of a safe haven for possession, and it's not going to cure his deficiencies and flaws. It's going to disguise them a little bit and make it a little bit easier.
I think that is the sort of player that Manchester United need, right? Part of the issue is that they went for a defensive midfielder in Casemiro, who isn't actually particularly great in terms of that in possession play, especially under pressure. And when he was at Real Madrid, often you would see Casemiro just being moved into a more advanced role in build-up possession, because you have players like Kroos and Modric who can drop in and do the more technical stuff. And I think at the moment Manchester United really lacking that sort of. Obviously, they're not going to go for a Brozovic type player because they've gone for Casemiro.
You can't fit that player into the team now.
So you have to have someone who is going to play as an 8 who can drop in, is really good. Someone like Bernardo Silva, we saw him doing that for Man City.
Michael Carrick from the previous generation, that player, like he was.
Yeah, so you have an 8 who drops in, helps out, and that gives you a little bit more stability and build-up. That was what they were missing, I think.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.